need to start thinking differently about FASD. FASD is a brain-based invisible disability that is lifelong. There's no cure. And normal assumptions would mean that, behaviour management strategies would work. But with us, they don't, because we don't understand consequences. We need to start raising awareness about the misconceptions about FASD. FASD individuals have amazing strengths, but they also have their weaknesses, which we identify going through life and learn how to cope and adjust. But I think the main thing for me is that people need to realise is not simply that an individual won't do something or they're being defiant. It's more of a case that we just simply can't. So let's start normalising this and shaping the environment to suit the individuals so they can flourish and grow just like everyone else.
I can't talk to you if you're too fast. I can't talk to you if you don't give me time to answer. I am fun, but you don't know that unless you slow down and listen. #think differently.
FASD is a condition that impacts and limits a child's ability to function in everyday life. It is known as an invisible disability, as a lot of the issues are the processing that takes place in the brain. If the expectations that are placed on these children are more than their ability, then we don't create an atmosphere for them to thrive in. These children, it really is a case that they can't, not won't. In order for them to fulfill the potential within them, they need empathy, they need understanding, and they need a huge variety of supports. That's why we have to think differently about FASD.
Why do we need to think differently about FASD? When we think differently about FASD, we can make a massive change in people's lives. That might be the individual, it might be their caregiver or parent, or it might be a professional, a teacher, a social worker, a member of the medical profession. When everybody thinks differently, it changes life for that individual. Having a diagnosis isn't a label. It just helps people to understand them better and support them better. And it helps the individual as they grow older in life to understand the challenges that they will most certainly face, but also what their amazing skills and talents are. So this FASD month, let's all join together and think differently about FASD.
So why do we need to think differently about FASD? Well, we need to think differently about FASD because our children, young people and adults with FASD are amazing, and with the right support they can do incredible things. When we think differently about FASD, we recognise the strengths of individuals, we recognise the challenges they face, we recognise the symptoms of FASD, and we recognise that we, as parents, caregivers and professionals, all have a role to play. We can make changes to the environment, we can adjust our expectations, and we can support their strengths and help every individual flourish and reach their potential. When we see and experience the world as others do, then we have the potential to change lives. And that's why we need to think differently about FASD.
We need to think differently about FASD because all of our children deserve the chance to grow up in a world where their neurodivergence is celebrated and where they have the right support to flourish and be happy.
A reason to think differently about FASD is the child in your care or your child, there's a higher probability that they're having a harder time, but it's so easy to think that they're giving you a hard time.
When I hear the term thinking differently about FASD, it takes me back about 5 or 6 years ago when I realised that parenting a child with FASD is not about changing the child, and that the key actually lay within me, the parent, and that I needed to change. I needed to change the way that I parented my son. So I needed to move from a very traditional style of parenting that I had been using to a more therapeutic style of parenting. I also needed to change the way that I viewed my son. I used to look at him and I used to see poor behaviour. Now I look at him and I see a child that is struggling, and a child that is struggling with his environment, is struggling with big feelings, etc., struggling with something, and that needs my support. So I also had to change the way I viewed my son. And I also had to make sure that that I was a good role model. So I was modelling the types of behaviour that I would like my son to display.
We need to think differently about FASD. Children diagnosed, people diagnosed with FASD, this is a permanent, lifelong neurological disability, and individuals affected by it won't grow out of it. So typical management strategies don't work. Don't send them to their room. They don't understand consequences. It's not that they don't want to do something, it's quite simply that they can't.